Hey everybody, this is PD from the Spin Rack, and we also have.
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
Well, this is old news from last month, but we didn't talk about it. Hey, the Daredevil Born Again, which was going to be the Blip series of how Daredevil went through the blip. They Kevin Feige is not happy, and they are um, overhauling this. They do plan to use some of the scenes, but it was a lot of courtroom drama. A lot of, I think some friends of mine, they were saying how what's the name? They took Daredevil out the suit. Well, they said the first four, Daredevil doesn't get into the outfit until the fourth episode. So it probably had the same issues as this, but I guess I'm not sure what happened, but I think with the worry of sales being down, even though they had Spider-Man, but some of the other stuff hasn't done as well. So they want this thing to be tip top shape, but at the same time they had the looming thing of the Netflix thing, which was working. It was successful. So at the same time, if they put forth a less successful thing, then they had the glaring thing of someone saying, "Get us Jeff Loeb," type of deal. And I know Feige doesn't want that, so obviously he wants the best Daredevil can be. What are your thoughts on this so far?
I'm happy. I was happy when I heard it because I think too many things, too much stuff came out, and it was kind of like finally, like, oh, it's all right, no big deal, no big deal. Finally, it was like, hey, what the hell is this? No, no, we can't let this go. I've heard that for a couple of things. What the Echo series? No, 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 we got to clean this
Yeah,
up.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Echo, yeah.
Echo series. I don't know if that's the same thing with Ironheart. I don't know if that got shelved completely or if
Iron
that's
Shard Shelf. Yes, thank you. Yep, keep going.
that got shelved, that got shelved, and then with Daredevil the same thing. Like, no, somebody stepping in saying, "What the hell is no? What do you mean he's not in the costume for 5 episodes?" Well, it's great because then in the last episode he's like, "People want this. He's a superhero. You ninny." Stop trying to do different stuff. You got like, no, they expect to see him in his costume. Why would you take that out? Oh, well, for this story, okay, no, 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 not have, no, no, yeah, yeah, stop production, cut. We're gonna do this right. We're gonna do this the right way. No, just you need. There are times where like, look, you can't leave these people to their own devices because one, and this has always been the recurrent thing with these people who work on superhero stuff. They don't like superheroes. They don't think superheroes are quality fictional characters. They think they need to be improved. They can always come up with something better. They don't understand the superhero medium, what makes these things work, and then they're always like, oh, this is so unbelievable. And these are fantasy characters existing in modern day. Because if Daredevil was running around doing this stuff and he was in fairyland or there were dragons, nobody would care. But the fact that they have automobiles and airplanes and a whole bunch of science that's supposed to explain everything, like, oh man, and they can never marry the two. They don't know how to do it, and so then they end up doing all this stuff where, okay, what I mean, look, come on, let's be honest. If he's not in costume for 5 episodes, this is somebody who thinks him being in costume is ridiculous. They think it's silly, and they're like, no, I can't write that, but I can write that. I'm going to focus on the legal aspect, and then he can come in the costume for the last bit and give people that type of stuff. Like, no, that's not what this show is supposed to be about. He's supposed to be in costume. I was annoyed enough when the last season of Daredevil on Netflix, and he wasn't in the Daredevil costume. They decided they were going to put him in the black outfit for most of the season. I'm like, what the hell? And they had Bullseye running around in his outfit looking better than he did. I was like, no, 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 stupid, stupid, stupid. They even that type of stuff I would have shut down. Like, no, he's Daredevil. He needs to be in the suit. That's what the people are tuning in for. You can't take that away and then call it a successful thing. We already did that with Moon Knight. Okay, now look, what do we got now? Okay, no, so I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to hear this type of stuff. I hope they eventually they do get Echo out, that they do get Ironheart out, but more importantly, that somebody taking. I mean, Daryl's one of my all-time favorite characters. The Netflix series was great. That She-Hulk stuff, I can just forget about. Get it right. This should not be too hard. And if you don't know what you're doing, watch the first 2 seasons of Daredevil over on Netflix. That should inform you on what you need to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, it's funny because I saw the I hear you on the Daredevil thing. I'll just say with I like the they took the that last bit that was in Born Again, which was the guy in the Daredevil costume, and they played it out for the season, and they showed that at Comic Con. And I watched that scene again recently, and it's possibly one of the best things ever because they show you a Daredevil that is able to save Froggy, or I think it's Froggy who he almost kills, and then he starts putting the beats on the bullseye in the Daredevil costume, and it's like, oh yeah, Daredevil's gonna win. It's like, nope, I can use everything without saying it. I'm using a stapler. Daredevil couldn't move, so even the third had its moment. So, but yeah, you had something that was high order. Jeff Loeb also showed us that clip at Comic Con. So, the thing of it is, if you go in there and you got all this buzz, finally we can do a multi-character thing with Daredevil when he was in Spider-Man. When you get to the TV show and it misses the mark, then what can you say? When the other guys, but they finally accepted the other guys were better at it, even though you have stuff like Iron Fist or the second season of Jessica Jones saying, well, they had their issues. Like, no, it wasn't like the Red Brown Captain America or something like that. It was like, it's the same. If you're gonna look at that, I would look at the Marvel shows and say what people go to Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Hawkeye and say those are the good ones, and everything else and oh, I like WandaVision, but I'll never watch it again, type of deal. And that's what the whole point of doing this TV is, something so you can keep going back and saying, I want to watch this again. Because what people are doing, they're going through the whole Marvel universe and watching it in order. And what they're not doing is watching these TV shows over and over again. So that's what you want. You want to hit the mark. You want to do something well. And, they didn't do the ballet over top of buildings with the Netflix series. They couldn't. They did some of it, but they couldn't have them dancing like this. You're Disney. They didn't have Moon Knight do it, and most of the early Moon Knights. That's one of the hooks of what Bill Sienkiewicz was doing, was having him like floating on air and on a string and whatnot. And Daredevil has some of that stuff of bouncing around in the sky. So I'm not sure you can spend money on that every episode, but it'd be fun to see. So
that was one of the couple of maybe one or two things that, well, I understood these guys had a budget, so they never really did the radar sense. They did like some, I really thought it was some slapdash thing as to how he perceives the world. And then they were like, all right, that's enough. That's enough. We can't afford it anymore. Like, okay. And then the same thing, I think there was one episode where you got to see some actual, like you say, like the ballet, across the rooftops, that type of stuff. There was one, and he wasn't even in costume when he did it. He's running around in his he was running around, trousers and a jacket, at the end of the day. So that was like the only thing. But I forgave a lot of that. I just said, okay, budget, no problem. I'm not gonna get that. I can understand. But now I would hope that we could get to see more of that. I would love to see that.
mhm. Yeah, no, it's a thing of because I was looking at one of the opening scenes, and this is not to say you don't use the spirit as a thing for a movie, but they did have using the silhouettes and whatnot of him jumping from building to building. That's something that would be fun to see in the Daredevil thing, because that's his wheelhouse. Like it'd be fun to see that, or Moon Knight. I was like Moon Knight especially would be work for that too. So
Well, they
um,
actually Moon Knight got a short treatment for that. Like a couple of those, those cool scenes with him jumping and then the cape, like turning
Kate,
into like a crescent moon or something. And it was so fleeting at the end of the day. And I'm like, okay, because we had to have a whole episode with him on some Egyptian barge talking to a hippo, we couldn't get more of this.
they took what was like what a couple of panels in the original Origin, like a couple pages, and then it got to the meat of this gritty sort of guy who's fighting these criminals in the city and whatnot, and having this weird stuff. And it's like saying that was just a small bit. No, 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 we're gonna apologize for white guy going to Egypt. We're gonna put an Egyptian in there, and we're gonna put this all around there. And Marvel has another Egyptian character. We're gonna make that one a woman, and you know the was a Scarlet Scarab. Like that character is one of the more powerful characters in the Marvel universe. I think we were talking about pandering. I don't know if we talked about that in the but
We didn't talk about it enough.
but yeah, you can get if you can get to a point where like Marvel is starting where even though they you know Disney's having their struggles, at the same time they've gotten, I think you've always said it, gotten some high praise and respect and allowed to, whereas most TV shows you're not expecting it to be good early on, but they need to perform, but at the same time they've gotten this grace period. So at this point they want to try to fix it and get some shows where they're not sitting around there trying to, oh, you're a mutant, Captain Marvel. Oh, another label. Like, are you kidding me? It's like, you kidding me? You're gonna tear down like the thing of most kids. If you know, if I as an X-Men fan, if I had, like, was it there was a comic where Storm comes and runs into Kitty. They take her to a soda shop and they say, "Hey, you're," he said, "The professor told me we can tell you." He said, "We're actually superheroes, and you're a mutant, and blah blah blah." And she's just like so wide eyed, like that's the moment. If this comics were real, I would love to have that moment. And what does Ms. Marvel do? Oh, another label, mutant, a mutation. It's like, no, this is the coolest thing to have the moment that Jean Grey had, where she comes to the school. It's like, what do you think this is about? Oh, it's about we have all these guys have extra powers. He said, I have extra power too. That's the hook of it. Well, oh, another label. Oh, okay, whatever. But yeah, let's see if we can right the ship. Hmm?
You remember the first appearance of Dazzler in X-Men? What was
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
X-Men?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
What was that like? Do you remember the issue number?
Oh, her first appearance was 130. X-Men
Okay.
130. Okay.
And Cyclops goes to her and he's like, "Hey, have you ever wondered about your powers?" She says, "Nope."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they're missing.
Yeah,
That's what they're missing. You know, the people who are kind of like, "No, I can do this cool stuff. This is great." You're like, "Ever wondered about it?" No, not really. I live in a world where people have powers. So, you
well,
know, I got them too, and they help my performance. So, I'm just rocking with it. It's just really cool. Where do they come from? I don't know. I don't know where you guys' powers come from either.
that's the. I mean, that was it. When I had that book and I finally read it, and I was just like you couldn't tell me and that was like I don't know, possibly 13 or something like that. You couldn't tell me that I knew Dazzler in her own comic was not cool. I knew Dazzler in the X-Men was cool. and nothing's gonna be like I need more story to her understanding her powers. Like no, that's the other reason why I was cool with Angel, because everyone else has so much struggle, and you have someone that's just okay with their power. They're just like, hey, this is what I do, and the people love it. I get up there and I'm a light show, and on my own from the music we're playing. I'm able to transfer that and I do that stuff. It was just a quick, short thing because ultimately the character was, forced on Claremont and Byrne. They really only planned on doing a two-parter,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
you remember the origins of the character? It was supposed to be Grace Jones.
yeah, yeah, that's what John Romita. Well, John Romita Jr. He didn't get that, but he saved Marvel from them having and at that point he was probably the only one that was him and maybe Bill Sienkiewicz would actually go into clubs and whatnot, and he was the one that's smart enough to say, maybe we shouldn't call her Disco Dazzler. If this disco thing falls apart, you don't want to be stuck with that. They got rid of the Disco Dazzler from the name, but he also really wanted. You can see a drawing he did. He really wanted Grace Jones to be Dazzler, and of
Yeah,
course Shooter wanted who was that? They wanted to tie it into a movie that never happened with
it
what's
was supposed to be
her
what's the name? 10
name?
uh
Yeah, 10. Oh yeah, 10. Yeah, what's her
good grief. Her name is it like comes in, it's like there and then it just slips away again. Bo Derek.
Oh, Derek. It's still. She must be on the best. That's still gorgeous. So, yeah, so that's what he was going, and that's why he ultimately did the graphic novel of Dazzler, where he tried to add some angst. But yeah, it was a, for me, reading that comic book was just a fun sort of story. It's still, for that time, it was an important story because it was her first appearance. At the same time, it just, she came in, she was a part of the team, and then she doesn't stay along with them. You know, she decided to go her own way. And you see her, she had some appearances around the Marvel universe before the comic came out. So it felt like Byrne was connected because she was also appeared in the Fantastic Four issue where Johnny and her talk. But it was a side note, that was an interesting book if you look at it, because she was written to have the kind of Marvel stuff that Spider-Man or Iron Man would have, that can have the fight in them that they have, but at the same time she was she was playing the field. There was a lot of casual sex going on in that book. He was an adult type book with the same time with the gumption of Spider-Man or Iron Man. But anyway, back to
I only remember the issue where she beat Doctor Doom with her handbag.
you got to remember that she was a Terrax. And Terrax leaves Galactus. So Galactus is like, all right, I'm gonna take homegirl here, and I'm making her, giving her some power so she can find Terrax and deal with him. So she goes out, deals with Terrax, comes back. Terrax is stuck with a Galactus, and then there's these odd moments. I was like, is Galactus in the friend zone with Dazzler right now? It seems it seems like her other power is just to enchant people, like enchant men, and which I always say Dazzler shouldn't be. We turn this into, why not do a Dazzler TV show? Hey, they got Taylor Swift being huge in her movie thing. You had Megan Thee Stallion on the She-Hulk. Why not, instead of, I've seen a couple costumes. I need, if I put this video up, I need to find that cosplayer we saw at the con, and they need to do, maybe they're talking about doing it for, but at the same time, maybe do that. But they have to get paid money for some songs and whatnot. It'd probably be, well, no, actually Lifetime has some okay songs. But anyway, let's right the ship at Marvel. And for me, they don't have their Mandalorian yet. Do you feel that Disney has their Mandalorian for the Marvel shows?
No,
Thank
no,
you.
they don't.
Thank you. There we go.
And
Yeah.
even Star Wars doesn't have their Mandalorian any longer.
It's so terrible.
Hey,
All
they
right.
did that. I should be sitting here right now saying, "Hey, man, you know what? Can't wait for Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2 to come out. I never know if I'll get another season because they screwed up so much stuff." At the end of the day, we should be looking forward to season 2 of Boba Fett, season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. All this stuff should be coming out the pike. And because these guys decided, hey, not only are we going to put in our foot in our mouth, we're going to make certain we step in this scat first. So I'm like, what did you guys do? So yeah, the TV, I really don't get it. I think Star Wars has started to right their ship with stuff like Ahsoka and Andor.
Yeah.
Those were good and they were solid. Okay, so the point where people can say, oh, blah blah blah. No, 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 no. Okay, Mandalorian will be back, and then you can definitely look forward to some more of Andor. I don't know about Ahsoka, but the show's good, the writing's good, and that's really all you need to do to quiet down these haters is just to turn out stuff where people are like, oh, this is terrible. Like, no, I think this is a lot better than what you're saying. But when it's not, they just nitpick at everything, and you can't get away from it. It's like being hounded by hyenas or jackals or something. So Marvel's got to be able to do the same thing, which you would think shouldn't be too hard. It's a TV format. Just turn out a good story. I think what was the last thing they did that I thought was, well, they didn't cast. I didn't like the casting for the actress who was going to be Elsa Bloodstone, but that Halloween special they did with Werewolf by Night, that was a lot of fun. I was like, why don't you guys do more of that? But because do you know I still haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy special?
Oh no.
I still haven't seen. I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and I haven't seen the special. At one point, it was to the. I really felt, look, I want to see this stuff because I want to stay current. I want to be included on what's going on in the universe. And then they just literally, they not chipped at it, they hacked at it to the point it became, no, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. It started with Black Widow, and it just continued with a whole bunch of stuff afterwards. So, that's a big, that if you have a if that's prevalent amongst viewers, my type of feeling,
Mhm.
that's not good. That's not good. I've already developed a bad habit where I'm not finishing series. I still haven't seen the last episode of Ahsoka. I didn't see there was the last episode of Mandalorian. I didn't see that, but I did see every single episode, of Strange New Worlds. So that's showing something at the end of the day. We're there. I want to see how this ends. I've got, faith and trust that this is going to end well based on, what you've done so far with the series. And the other stuff, there is still this mentality of I'll get around to it when I get around to it.
Mhm.
Not because not because the show is necessarily bad, but because you guys have built up a track record of not sticking the landing and just, offering disappointment at the end of the day. So I'm not, even with stuff that was solid, even with stuff that was solid like Ahsoka, it's still there. So I'm hoping it gets to the biggest thing is when guys come and say, "Hey, did you see the last episode?" And you're like, "No, I didn't see it." And you realize, no, this is stuff that you need to watch because you want to be able to. You can talk to people about it. You don't want to miss out on it. But because it's online and I can access it today or 6 months from now, and it doesn't really matter, and I got the subscription, so that's cool too. Then that's the pocket that you put people in. So you got to turn out quality stuff. Okay, so yes, if you got to shelf the show to get it right, shelf the show. If you're going to shelf the show because this is never going to be right, hey, too bad. If we got to come over and retool, do all of that stuff. But once you have restored faith, you will have a more submissive audience. They will not be flying off at the handle and looking to do this amateur deconstruction and analysis of every single thing that you do. Oh, and you can stop the pandering. That would help.
Well, the hard part for more so the Marvel show. Well, I guess not all of them, but some of the more recent ones, I find myself if I'm on Disney and I'm like, oh, I survived this. Let me go see something else on. Let's see if there's anything else on there. And I watch some wacky shows on Disney, which is the Doogie Kamala Howell Aloha show. There's some more Peyton Elizabeth Lee shows that are on there.
Did you watch The Monkey King? That was bad.
No, I haven't seen that. I saw what was it? What did I watch on there? I watched
Legend
the
of the
National
Monkey King.
Treasure.
That was just bad. That was so disappointing. I gave that 2 episodes as well. I was like, there's nothing going on here.
What was I watched the National Treasure, which is just like the kids fair. But that's the other thing. It's like um it feels like the some of the other Disney stuff understands the teen drama. And I'm looking at I looked at Kamala Khan again because I also watched on the other side on Netflix, which is Never Have I Ever, which has the Indian girl as the lead and the East Indian girl as the lead and the in the East Indian family. But that one seems more real because she's a girl that's just like boy crazy. She's like she's trying to lose her virginity, and she's gone through this traumatic thing that allows her to just do these nutty things that are like what kids would do. It's kind of not serious, but like kind of like real world effects to some of the mistakes she makes and her dreams and that sort of thing. And kids being nasty to each other, whereas Kamala Khan was more like, what you want. She's always, well, she does have her best, her interests at heart first. It was still a person who's trying to do the best thing and it not always working out. Like, oh, I want to do this and that, and I'll trick my parents and this, that, and the other. But whereas the other one was kind of this. So I think, you want to try to get to it where they're real. You don't have to make sure that you're safe. So we're like, hey, we got a positive person that lives in Jersey City. She's a brown woman that's in there, and she's just a spark of light. Look, you can have fun with this. Disney already figured out. Disney did an episode, one of those shows of the ABC Family, where they had the cool guy and they had the heavyset kid. He's not heavyset anymore, but he was heavy when he was younger. And his best friend has this girlfriend, and every time his best friend leaves, he's the cool guy, the girlfriend hits on the heavyset kid, and he's like, it's driving him crazy. So he doesn't, he can't get her to stop. So he wants him to get her to get caught, so he can get out of her chasing around him because he's not interested. She's only interested in him when he goes away. And I was like saying, this is a real sort of thing. Like you gotta have some fun where it's like, When they do kids, they do the MIT kid, the kid that's the smartest kid in the room, that's gonna do well. And if something goes wrong, they at least try to do the best thing. So you're Disney already figured it out, but it's not Disney. It's Kevin Feige who's kind of running this thing. He's been like, since I got the helm, safe. We are going to be safe. We are not messing this up. We're gonna touch up every SJ warrior and just slap them five and give them what they want. And that's not what they wanted. So it's better to just, someone wakes up and they have issue with your story. What can you do? You got to put it out there, just like Married with Children. They got in trouble, and that led to the success of the show. So
Yeah, the thing that always got me, and the great irony is that they're trying to please people who don't watch your show. They don't watch the show. If they show the whole show in totality, they probably be like, okay, no. They look at these particular aspects of who's the lead. Wait a minute, there's a white guy and he's in Egypt. Oh, that's terrible. It should be somebody Egyptian if they're in Egypt. Like what? People don't have passports. They can't travel anymore. No, it's got to be this particular. Okay, so we're gonna like no, 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 no. This this particular character has these particular ties for this particular reason. Okay, this is not this is not Rudyard Kipling with White Man's Burden or something of that nature. This is something, it's its own thing. But then in trying to, okay, we're going to make sure we check these boxes so these guys don't have anything to say. They don't care. They don't tune in and watch your show. Okay, they watch it to see if there's something happens that they don't like, so they can come over here and ride, ride the last roundup of justice, if you will. But they don't contribute to your show in terms of ratings or anything else, or in terms of feedback that you can actually take in and say, okay, great, this is some stuff we know we're doing well. Maybe we can touch this stuff. No, so it doesn't make any. Why are you even acknowledging their existence at the end of the day? Because they're going to moan one way or the other. What you need to do is, your audiences are tuning in, they need to get what they came for. They need to get what they expect, and then you can go over there. I mean, as long as you're not doing something just totally off the chain, like I can't even imagine, because most of these guys understand good storytelling, and good storytelling usually keeps people in their seat, as opposed to the other stuff. I don't know anybody who's tuning in like, well, I'm only tuning in if this character is an Egyptian in Egypt. Who does that?
yeah,
Who does it at the end of the day? And did you see Gods of Egypt?
only bits of it. Only bits of it. Yeah.
I was on board with the whole thing. It's like, look, man, you got pretty much got a stone cold white cast. It's supposed to be, and it's supposed to be Egyptian gods. What's going on at the end of the day? But I've also been somebody who's acknowledged that the Egyptian myth stories, they just don't hold they just don't hold up like the Greek stuff or the Norse. Coming out of a Western tradition, these things just don't really hold up at the same way. But when I look at the movie, I've seen that movie several times. I've really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I've really liked it. Would it have been better, or would the storyline have been better or worse if you actually had Egyptian characters? Would it have been better? Where is that? It would have been nice. Okay, it would have been nice at the end of the day, but I still tuned into it because I'm a fan of mythology. Okay, I know these particular stories, and I wanted to see how this one was done. And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it, and what's more, I've seen that kids who have seen the film have tuned into it more than one time as well. So that's the thing. That's the thing that always overrides. Where's the story? Because all of those cliches and everything of that nature, if the story's good, we tend to accept them. All the contradictions, all the stuff like, oh, these trophies are terrible and everything of that nature. We don't need to see a damsel in distress unless the story's good, then we accept it. We don't have any problem with it. So that's the thing that the story needs to be good. That's always the most important thing, not these other bells and whistles. The story needs to be good, not shutting these guys up. The story needs to be good.
But one of the things that's tough now, where it's like, say in the past, whenever they do some sort of drama in the West, and they'd have some white people or white women playing Indians, or white men playing Indians, and they'd have some sort of red makeup and this, that, and the other, and it'd be like, hey, these roles can go for some Indian people. But the contrast to doing this, like Prey and this recent, what was it, The Revenant, and then this recent, what, the Flower Moon thing, is like every time they get one, they're like, these are the lightest Indian for the period. Like the period, they had a lot more color. It's like you're winning out. You're getting Indian actresses or Indian actors and actresses to play these parts, but it's like the lightest of the light. And it's like you look at the pictures, it's just like the copper colored people of back then. It's like we're never gonna see those ones in these movies, are we? No, no, we're not.
I'm glad you brought that up because I would look at those older pictures, what they call them daguerreotypes, and I would, I would look at them and I was like, man, I guess these guys were exaggerating. Because anytime they would say like, yeah, black, white, red, yellow, that type of stuff. But then you look at the complexion in the pictures, it's like, okay, it almost like those guys are in makeup in comparison to the people that you would, that you would see, acting out the roles today. So you're like, okay, yeah, that is something to note. It's sort of like, it is for me. It was just something that I noticed as well. It's just like, okay, because these particular images over here, and then what I'm seeing in the film, and even the way that they were depicted in like those earlier films when you would have white actors in makeup, it's nothing. The comparison is just it's so stark at the end of the day. So yeah, you're right. That was just something I noticed as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, so when you look at this stuff and you're just sitting around here worrying about this, you're trying to make you're trying to make your TV shows, and you have to remember that, most of the time people were trying to make their channel. They made it, very slowly, and Netflix didn't get to the point where they're making shows. They had everyone else's shows, and it took time. You same with some channels came out the gate running, but AMC had shows, TV, and had no TV for years, and then they finally lucked up on one show, and they were the darling with their Breaking Bad, but they're like, no, 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 we like having this Walking Dead, and we're gonna do only Walking Dead. We're gonna do Walking Dead of the Walking Dead. We're gonna so that's the thing when you're doing TV at this point. First you want to be good, but you like Fox. They put out a lot of stuff. They put out a lot of stuff, and the thing that resonated, obviously, The Simpsons, and people now look at Married with Children with reverence and saying, "Hey, look what they did," and this, that, and the other. But while it was going on, people were very, like armchair saying this is terrible. And yes, they kind of did do
Get it off
stuff,
the air.
huh?
You're like, get it off the air. Get it off now.
Yeah, but at the
10
same
years
time.
later, 10
Mhm.
years later, groundbreaking.
Yeah, so it's like they were having fun, and it wasn't like it was, the two male creators, but they had female directors, female writers, and the dynamic of the show was this this you can say more so a show, like not really a chauvinist, but he was just like a guy, a downtrodden guy who's been beaten down by the world. And even if he says all this stuff, he wasn't as bad as Archie Bunker, but even if he says all this stuff, he's going to lose at the end. So it's like, what does it matter that he called this person, that person fat? And they still play the insults on, you can see those on TikTok and on Instagram. They're hilarious. So, just join in the fun. Just try to make something that works, and try to make it like, and try to get to it where it's just like, hey, we did a series, and this is what the old school way of doing something. We put something out there, and then at the same time, the audience is like, give us a show, give us more. And we're not getting that from the Marvel shows, where they're like, oh, wow, we like this episode. We like the episode of the Laverne and Shirley on Happy Days. Okay, we'll give you
Oh,
Laverne and Shirley
the
for
Marvel
7 years.
the Marvel stuff is like Amistad. Give us free. Give us free.
They're just like, they're not getting any sort of you want something, you want to do TV, you want to maximize it. You want to be smart and be like, hey, I'm doing these 10 episode runs. We're not going to run into your Jessica Jones problem. We know, yes, you are going to run into Jessica Jones problem. You're going to have some padding, but you got to do TV. Well, anyway, we're going on too long on this thing, but I just say no. We need the viewer hours, so please watch as long as you can. But let's close this out. Any other words?
No, if I say anything additional, we're gonna go on for another 20 minutes. Let's just get out of here.
All right, spin a rack.
We're out.